How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across America. Delighted to have you with me. Thank you very much for tuning in today. 877-973-7425 is the phone number if you would like to call in. Now, importantly, if you text the word Eric to 33777, you can get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, and so much more. But I want you to do something. I want you to please consider doing something right now. If you text the word donate to 33777, I don't know if you guys know the situation in Mississippi right now. I have one sister who lives in Memphis and one who lives in Learned, Mississippi, south of the damage. But it is a war zone north of Jackson, Mississippi. Roads have not thawed out and harder, colder air is coming. Grocery stores are out of food. The power companies can't get into areas to rebuild and reinstall power poles because the roads are impassable due to the ice and the sludge, and the trees are still falling. My niece works at a hospital in Memphis. They're out of clean bed linens and won't get any until next week because people simply can't get to the hospital to pick up the linens, take them, clean them, and return them. That's how bad it is. And you're not hearing this on the national news per se. And to the extent you are, they're focusing on Nashville, which is bad, but not nearly as hard hit as Oxford, Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi. The interstates there are still shut down. Roads are shut down outside of the interstates. Classes at the University of Mississippi have had to be shut down until week after next. That's how bad the situation is, and you're not getting this on national news. I have a number of affiliates in Mississippi from the top of the state to the bottom. The top of the state, they're doing everything they can to raise public awareness about what's happening in Mississippi. It's also western Tennessee as well. The Memphis area has been very hard hit. My sister, just to give you an idea of this, my sister and her husband have a garage. It's one of those aluminum garage sheds that they park their camper under. They got so much ice, and this is the problem. They got ice, not snow. The ice was so much it collapsed the building and destroyed their camper. That's how heavy the ice was, and they thankfully have insurance. A lot of people are struggling in that area. If you text the word donate to 33777, I'm going to send you back a link to the Salvation Army Mississippi. Why Salvation Army Mississippi? Because they're actually on the ground in North Mississippi and in southern Tennessee and in southwest Tennessee right now, doing the Lord's work, trying to help people. They are getting down roads that are otherwise impassable to deliver hot meals to people, and they're doing what they need to do. I know there are a lot of charities, and people oftentimes say, hey, what about Samaritan's Purse, or what about the Red Cross, or what about this one? I know for a fact right now the Salvation Army Mississippi has boots on the ground in areas that are otherwise impassable, and they're delivering hot meals to people. They're checking on people. They're doing wellness checks. They're getting supplies to people. They're doing a lot of good work. And I know there are other charities. This is the one with national reach that all of you know that's doing great work, and all the money that you donate is going to go help the effort. So if you text donate to 33777, they're on the ground there right now. And I cannot express to you what a disaster it is in North Mississippi right now, and you're probably not getting the coverage. And, you know, the sad thing is the people who are in the area, they're not getting the coverage, too, because they haven't had power since last weekend. It comes on and goes off and comes on and goes off. They've actually got a water crisis now because so many people have been running faucets to keep their pipes from freezing, they're out of water and they're having to refill reservoirs and refill pump areas and refill water tanks now for cities. So people can't get water out of their faucets at this point. That's how bad the situation is in that part of the state. And a lot of it is rural. There are some cities there. Hardy people, but they are very hard hit. So if you text donate to 33777, I would very much appreciate it. Keep those people in your prayers. Tom Homan is back. He has had a press conference. I want to go through some of the audio from Tom Homan before we pivot to the latest video about Alex Preddy and the like. This is Tom Homan talking about being on the ground in Minnesota. Sorry, too many M's today. This is Tom Homan.
Look, again, we didn't agree on everything, but we agreed on the things I just talked about. There's much more we can do, and I'm going to continue this dialogue. I got many more community leaders to talk to. I got many more sheriffs to meet. President Trump wants this fixed, and I'm going to fix it with your help. If the message if you're in the country illegally, you're never off the table. But privatization doesn't mean you forget about everybody. So let me say this. If the message we send is you can enter this country illegally, it's a crime. Don't worry about it. You can have your due process, show up in court, not show up in court, get ordered removed. Don't worry about it. Unless you commit a serious crime, you're good to go. If that's the message we send to the world, you're never going to fix this problem.
He's right. By the way, he's been working in this since Ronald Reagan. He started working for the federal government on this issue during Reagan's tenure, set to retire after Trump. A little more from him.
You know, some of the operations that I've been involved in, we know there's children in the house based on surveillance. So we know you got to be a little bit different when you go in that house because there's going to be children present. So target enforcement operations, the way we've always done it, I think we got away from a little bit. And we're going to make sure we do target enforcement operations. And look, and I will say it again, we are not surrendering our mission at all. We're just doing it smarter.
Going to do it smarter. Now, there's an extended clip I want you to hear.
In the past few days, I've met with Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, Mayor Fry, numerous police chiefs and sheriffs, and I have more to meet. I'll also be continuing the dialogue with business and religious leaders in partnership with Minnesota, your community leaders. I'll be meeting with them too because I want to hear what they have to say. In my meetings with folks so far, and most importantly, the governor and the AG, the Mayor Fry, we didn't agree on everything. I didn't expect to agree on anything. I've heard many people want to know why we're talking to people who they don't consider friends in administration. Bottom line is you can't fix problems if you don't have discussions. I didn't come to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines. You haven't seen me. I came here to seek solutions, and that's what we're going to do. And we've come a long way, and we got some good wins for the people of Minnesota, I think, and for the administration and for the safety and security of this city. One thing we did agree on, though, everybody I talked to agreed on, was that community safety is paramount. One thing we all agreed on was U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement is a legitimate law enforcement agency that has a duty to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and keep this community safe. Like I've said many times for the last several years, even before this administration, jurisdictions that refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities are sanctuaries for criminals. Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals and endangers the residents of the community. To be clear, we did not agree with Minnesota state and local officials that they would be involved in immigration enforcement. I didn't ask them to be immigration officers. I'm asking them to be cops working with the cops to help us take criminal aliens off the street.
You know, I want to dwell on that point a little bit here, just so you understand. But before I do that, one more clip from him.
Well, first of all, about the organization and the funding of the attacks on ICE. I'm not going to answer a lot about that because I'm not going to show our hand, but they'll be held accountable. Justice is coming.
Justice is coming for him. Now, I want to play an extended clip from Jacob Frey. You know, I had Charlie grab the clip for me, and it was the shorter version. I was like, nah, I think everybody needs to hear the longer clip of what he has done and how he explains Minneapolis' sanctuary city status. For every single one of you, you need to understand one basic point. Minneapolis protects illegal aliens more than any other city in the country. Minneapolis' sanctuary city laws are so broad, they're broader than Berkeley, California, Oakland, California, San Francisco, California, Los Angeles, California, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, New York City, Boston. Minneapolis bars all cooperation between local police and federal immigration authorities. That's how broad it is. The local police are not allowed to check immigration status, not allowed to report immigration status, not allowed to honor detainer requests. Why? There have been a series of federal cases where the Supreme Court ruled that local governments do not have to enforce federal law. The irony is that this was a decision written by Justice Scalia in which Justice Thomas and others on the right concurred, and it was Stephen Breyer and Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the progressives on the Supreme Court who disagreed. Had the left gotten their way back in the day, then Jacob Frey and Tim Walz would be forced to comply with carrying out federal immigration law. But now the left suddenly realizes Clarence Thomas was right, and Jacob Frey is hiding behind the Supreme Court precedent saying, we don't have to help, and they're not helping. The problem is, in their process, they're also making it very difficult. Listen now to the mayor. He was on a CNN town hall last night.
There's a lot of terminology about what is or what isn't a sanctuary city. But in Minneapolis, we have something called a separation ordinance. And what that ordinance states is that we do not work on immigration enforcement. We do not cooperate with federal agencies around immigration enforcement. We do work extensively with federal agencies to protect people and keep them safe. As I mentioned, we've had a number of incidents, many different administrations where we've worked with the federal administration to help. But it's not on federal immigration law. Why? Again, because I want our police spending time protecting the residents of our city, stopping homicides and carjackings, making sure that violent offenders are investigated and held accountable. What the separation ordinance also says is that we won't ask the question as to whether an individual is documented or not. And here's why. We want people that are undocumented to have the confidence to call 911 without the fear that they'll get deported in doing so. That is a safety strategy. That's not an immigration strategy. That is a safety strategy. And by the way, this is a strategy that has been implemented and supported not just by Minneapolis and my administration. This goes back even to Rudy Giuliani, the radical leftist, who said himself that we want people to call 911 and not to have a fear in doing so.
Now, you notice he's doing a couple of things here to distract you. First, he's saying we want our police to keep people safe. We want the police to focus on the bad guys. Well, except what he doesn't tell you is that when an illegal alien is arrested for committing a crime, the police, because of his separation policy, are not allowed to check the immigration status of the illegal alien. They are also not allowed to notify the federal government they have the illegal alien. And if the federal government notifies them they want the illegal alien, if the feds don't show up then and there to get the person, they're not allowed to hold the person. And then he throws in the sympathetic issue of 911. We don't want 911. We don't want people to feel unsafe calling 911. If there's no arrest, no detaining, no one's going to be impacted. And, the Rudy Giuliani position, to trot out Rudy Giuliani, his position was what Minnesota could have, which is if you call 911 because you're injured, you're hurt, or you're being victimized by crime, we don't care about your immigration status. We care about the criminal. So if you're injured, it's not going to be checked. If you're the victim, it's not going to be checked. But if you're the criminal, it's going to be checked. But he wants to distract you and make the sympathetic argument when the reality is Minneapolis refuses all cooperation with federal immigration authorities because they want to protect the illegal aliens. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Well, we have enough now, I think we can say, on Alex Preddy. A video has come out. The BBC, among others, have confirmed it from about 2 weeks ago. Alex Preddy was in an altercation with Border Patrol agents, spitting on them, kicking a car. Looks like he dislodged part of the bumper. He was forcefully kicking. It was an altercation where clearly he was an agitator and aggressive against law enforcement agents who, by the way, were actually in the area to pick up actual criminal illegal aliens. That doesn't mean he deserved what happened to him, though. He was made in the likeness and image of God, and he was tragically killed after, we now know, having been disarmed. And now the Border Patrol says his gun did not accidentally discharge, that an agent said gun 3 times rapidly, and another agent turned around and opened fire, killing Alex Preddy. It's a tragedy. He did put himself in a situation. And I just keep coming back to this. Had law enforcement arrested him 2 weeks ago, he'd be alive. Had Jacob Frey cooperated with immigration authorities, he'd have been alive. Had Tim Walz cooperated, he'd have been alive. Had Joe Biden not let the border be overrun, he'd be alive. Just a series of cascading disrespects of law and justice by the Democrats dragged Alex Preddy into a situation that inflamed his sensibilities, and he's dead. And it's a tragedy. And there were so many opportunities for people to do the right thing so that he wouldn't be dead. Let me tell you about my bank, Old Glory Bank. They do the right thing for you all the time. They stand up to the crazy activist shareholders who want banks to target conservatives. They protect your privacy. They protect your right to buy legally with your debit card. They're not going to restrict you unless the law says otherwise. It's oldglorybank.com/Eric, oldglorybank.com/ERICK. I've got a checking account with them. I got a savings account with them. I have enjoyed being with them as a bank. I've been a customer of theirs for 2 years. I was a customer of Old Glory Bank before they advertised. In fact, I sought them out as an advertiser because I believe in their mission, and I've had a really good experience with them, down to being able to deposit cash with their app, even though they're an online bank, using a QR code, 88,000 retail locations around the country. They've done an incredible job, and now they're about to be listed on the NASDAQ. Go to oldglorybank.com/Eric, oldglorybank.com/ERICK. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, terms and conditions apply. Greetings, conversationalists across America. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Please consider texting donate to 33777. The folks in West Tennessee and North Mississippi, they could really use the help. The Salvation Army link that I'll send you is boots on the ground helping people in real time there. They could use the help. I feel compelled to explain to you because a lot of you have raised questions along the lines of why is it that progressives in this country are more concerned with protecting illegal aliens than they are their own citizens? We are a year removed from the signing of the Laken-Riley Act, one of the first pieces of legislation signed by the president and passed by the Congress after Donald Trump got elected. Laken-Riley was a nursing student murdered at the University of Georgia by an illegal alien who had come in under the Biden administration, bounced around New York City, had been in and out of jail. They never deported him. He made his way to Georgia, and he murdered Laken Riley, and also even in Athens, Georgia, a very progressive city, was in and out of jail for stuff. And the left never wanted to deport him. We just had a situation near me where an 11-year-old girl was held at knife point with her 10-year-old sister. The girl was raped by an illegal alien who had come in under the Biden administration. This happens all the time. And the irony here is that there are now more progressive white people dying to protect the illegal aliens than there are illegal aliens dying in the custody of federal immigration authorities. And it's all exceeded by the amount of Americans who are the victims of crime from illegal aliens. And yet the left says that statistically illegal aliens are less likely to commit crime, which isn't actually true, because it's a crime to come into the United States. They say it's not, but it actually is a federal crime to unlawfully enter this country. What is unlawful entry? To come across the border of the United States without the prior permission of the federal government. That's a crime. It's a misdemeanor the first time, and the second time, and the third time becomes a felony. There are civil penalties, and the left says it's a civil penalty issue. No, there is a civil penalty, but it's also a misdemeanor. But they have concocted stories. They say undocumented. Actually, many of them are documented when they come across the border. The federal government law calls them illegal aliens. That's where the phrase comes from. It's not a pejorative racist term. It's derived from the federal statutes. An illegal alien is one who comes into the United States without the prior permission of the United States to be in the country. Many of them, most of them, in fact, are documented. They're not undocumented. They're documented and then released into the country under Joe Biden's policies, where 11 million of them came over. In 2023, 3 million alone flooded the border, came in, and those are the documented ones. There are some undocumented ones who got away without checking in with Border Patrol. What is going on here? I want to explain this to you, and I want to explain it to you by using a piece of video. This is Cameron Karski, I believe his name is. He is a progressive activist. He was one of the theater kids, and he himself described himself as a theater kid, which tells you everything. He's a progressive student at Parkland High School in Florida, where the shooting happened. He's become an anti-gun activist. He's the one who now thinks he's going to run for Congress, and claimed that Donald Trump was part of a global sex trafficking ring on CNN until Scott Jennings helpfully told him, you may want to change your mind on that, and he had to retract it publicly before the president sued him. He's in the thoughtful sense of he says what all the other progressives say and believes what all of them say and claims to be a deep thinker progressive, and he kind of gives light into the mind of why progressives focus on helping illegal aliens and believe they're loving their neighbor by protecting the illegal alien criminal, not the American citizen who might be a victim of the illegal alien. Listen to this.
The gun lobby is constantly shifting the blame from themselves to the individuals who perpetrate the violence. This is why I was vocally opposed to the shooter from my high school getting the death penalty. It was not because I think he is a good man. It is because we blame individuals and not the systems in place that allow these things to happen. But the shooting at my high school was not solely due to one human being. This was a person who had had several reports with law enforcement saying that he had expressed violent intentions, and he was still able to legally purchase an assault rifle at 19 years old.
So you're saying the culpability goes beyond him?
I don't focus on the evil of human beings. I focus on evil in systems. And if we do not address the systems that lead to this violence, we are never going to be able to solve it. Killing the mass shooter from my high school, first of all, I don't think the state should have that power. Second of all, that is not going to fix the problem. And we love to blame it all on the individual and not the things in place that allow them to exist. But
you got that? So he supports abortion so these people don't exist, but then he doesn't blame individuals. He blames systems. And that is increasingly what the left says. And by the way, there is an angle here for conservatives and Republicans when you engage with the left. You need to ask them not just can men become women, but are individuals responsible for their own actions? And increasingly, the left believes that you, me, every single other person, We are not responsible for our own actions. We are parts of systems and classes of people. So if a Hispanic man joins the Border Patrol, what the Hispanic man is doing is he's acting outside his race. He's acting as if he's a white man. And the left will tell them you're never going to be accepted by the white man. The white men in particular, but also Christian white women who are married in this country, are the oppressors. The further away you are from that, you are the oppressed. And the left now believes that the oppressed class of people have virtue and morality, and the oppressors do not. And so they begin a fairy tale to explain their thinking of why illegal aliens should be protected. And many of them at the basic level, on the ground, perhaps the Alex Prettys and others, they don't necessarily believe these things, but they've arrived at the conclusions to defend the illegal aliens thanks to the indoctrination of those who do. The starting point you have to understand is that the progressive left believes that the United States is a country built on stolen land. And if we are built on stolen land, the land itself, the nation itself, is illegitimate. Second, the people who stole the land and built the illegitimate nation built it on a racist system, and racism is woven into the system built on stolen land by the white oppressors. The solution is to tear down the system. Next, the non-white people are now oppressed by the white oppressors who stole the land and embedded into it a racist system. Fourth, crossing the border into the stolen land inhabited by the racist white occupiers is definitionally not a crime, because the precipitating crime was the stealing of the land and founding a racist system on top of it. The people who are moving into the system are not colonizers, therefore they are allowed into the land, as the history of the Western Hemisphere had people cross over across Alaska, come down and spread out, and many of the people who are there now are the ancestor or the descendants of the ancestors who were colonized. So they have greater claim to our land than we do. Then they say now that so many illegal aliens are here, they can't be deported, because to deport them would be a complicated mess, and also the people who would be in charge of deporting them are the white oppressors on stolen land who built a systemically racist nation of land thieves, so they're not capable of deporting the right people. The only ones who can be deported are the ones who came here and committed further crimes once they got here, thereby showing themselves to disrespect the land. That's the mythology the left has created to justify defending illegal immigrants. Essentially, the left, through Joe Biden, said that the border was sealed. They lied to everyone. Then when it was shown by plenty of people the border was not sealed, they said there was nothing they could do. Congress itself must act to seal the border. The president does not have that power. Then when Donald Trump sealed the border without Congress doing anything, they said, well, there are too many illegal aliens in the country to get rid of them now. We can't get rid of all the illegal aliens. There are just too many of them. It would be unfair, and it would wreck families. It would tear down the economy. Who would pick the cotton? Who would take care of our grandparents? It would ruin local economies. And also, we're a systematically racist nation on stolen land. So who has the moral right to remove these people? You can't argue with that logic, because it's not logic, it's insanity and emotion. And that is where the left finds itself. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, suggests that we're at a Fort Sumter moment. What Tim Walz failed to recognize in his statement is that that would put him on the side of the Confederacy. And it's no surprise that people who want a serf class of illegal aliens in this country to pick their cotton and take care of their grandparents descend from the same party that defended slavery. The fact of the matter is, if someone has arrived in this country without the permission of this country, definitionally they have committed a crime and they are not supposed to be here. What the left has decided, though, is they've elevated the morality of these people because they're the least of these. And they quote those lines from Scripture about the least of these and taking care of the least of these. And that they twist the Scripture. Even Satan can quote the Scripture and take it out of context. Jesus also said to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. He said to respect the laws of the land. The only time you don't respect the law is when the law of man disrespects the law of God. And so what they then fall back to is, well, the laws of man are disrespecting the laws of God because we're a systemically racist nation and racism is sin. Therefore, it negates everything else. They've worked themselves into this ideological insanity on this issue. And now when you see that there's an 11-year-old girl who's been raped by an illegal alien, well, it's because of the systems of oppression. And we need to understand it's the systems. The individual himself is not culpable. But now that he's broken this law, maybe we should deport him. Not throw him in jail now, but deport him. It's a madness. So how do you defeat it? One, ask the question, are individuals culpable for their own actions? Two, it is a federal misdemeanor crime to come into the country illegally. Why must we require someone commit a second crime to be deported? Let the left answer those questions. They struggle with just those very basic questions. The border got flooded by the Biden administration willfully, intentionally, and by design. And now that so many people, 11 million in the Pew Research estimate, crossed the border during Joe Biden's tenure in office, left says there are too many for us to possibly be able to deport them all. So now here comes Tom Homan and says, well, let's start with the criminals. Let's start with the people who get arrested for DUIs, the people who are otherwise detained by law enforcement. And what is the fallback from the left? Well, we're not going to cooperate and help you do that. And then they won't cooperate and help keep the protesters away while the federal government enforces those laws. I want you to be real clear here. The position of the left right now is no different from the Confederates who were protecting slavery. They want to nullify federal law, say they will not help carry out the federal laws. When asked to do so, they wish to protect the illegal aliens and they wish to preserve a system of serfs in this country to provide cheap labor for this country. That was the position of the Confederates before the Civil War. The fact of the matter is illegal aliens definitionally came into this country committing a crime by crossing the border. The left should recognize that we don't want law breaking. And I will say again, I think what happened to Alex Preddy was a tragedy. He should not have been killed. It was a tragic situation. He had been disarmed. Border Patrol agents shot him after he had been disarmed. But, you know, had law enforcement worked in Minnesota and actually done justice, they would have arrested Alex Preddy over a week ago when he was smashing the back of a Border Patrol car with his foot. And he wouldn't have been there to be shot this past Saturday. When law breaks down, it's not just the feds coming for and rounding up illegal aliens. It's that a lot of people who, for their own safety and protection, should be arrested and put somewhere and held to calm down, don't. The law is the law. If you don't like the law, you work through the Congress and the courts to change the laws or change the interpretation of the laws. You don't obstruct the law. But on the left now, they believe the law is illegitimate because it was created by a bunch of white oppressors who stole land and wove together and stitched together a systemically racist nation. They have concocted every excuse for themselves to ignore the law. We're either a nation of laws or a nation of the mob. And what we're seeing in Minnesota is progressives have decided that we should be a nation of the mob. And I ask them, when next they take power, because inevitably at some point they will they still be okay with mob rule, or will they demand that their laws be honored? And if so, why should anyone listen to them if they're not listening to the will of the American people through their lawmakers who voted to deport the illegal aliens? And they're not going to have an answer other than they've decided they're the virtuous ones. And when you look in the mirror every day and see yourself as the virtuous one, well, that's what Hitler and the Nazis do. And the left is so busy comparing all the people they don't like to the Nazis, they can't even see that. This hour of the program brought to you by Van Allen Golf. You know, I want to go play golf this weekend. My course is going to be closed because it's going to be so cold. They're actually covering the greens in water to freeze it to actually protect them from the bitter, bitter cold temperature. Wow, I heard of people doing that, but this is the first time my golf course has had to do this. Apparently, it's more common up north. But I would have my Van Allen Golf putter with me if I did. Go to vanallengolf.com and check them out. Great company, great people. I know them well. The putter is incredible. I own one. You can text golf to 33777 if you like. When we come back, there is more reporting that has just hit the wires, and I want to bring you up to speed on what amounts to Kristi Noem having engaged in a coup against President Trump's own immigration enforcement policies. She thought that she could do a better job than the people President Trump put in charge, wanted to impress the president with her acumen, and has wound up blowing it all up and getting people, American citizens, killed in the process. You really do need to hear this story when we come back. First, I need to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them and save $200. And look, they've got a money-back guarantee on this device, and I assure you it works. I've got them. You get 3 of these. You can hold them in your hand. You can plug them up in a car with a USB cord. You can plug them into the wall. They wipe out odors. They use multiple technologies. They generate ozone to get odors at their source. It's like odor bleach, essentially. They trap dust and pollen and pet dander. They really work. You get 3 of them. You save $200. You go to EdenPureDeals.com and you put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. at EdenPureDeals.com. They wipe out odors. I keep one in a travel bag, so whenever I go anywhere, I've got it with me in case I'm in a hotel room where people have smoked or you name it. Go to EdenPureDeals.com. That's the website, EdenPureDeals.com. Put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK, the number 3, at EdenPureDeals.com.